And some say it's the most powerful tool, the most powerful gift, that the power of love cannot be surpassed by anything else. That it brings everything we want in our lives to us through that power. And then you have to define what is power, what is love. Who wants to say? Anybody wants to say what they think love is? Or is it too early in the morning to think about love? In psychology, is anyone here a therapist or psychologist, psychiatrist here? No?
Homeopathy.
Great. Oh, homeopathy. Fantastic. That there came a time when we started discovering that the mind can change. A big question it was, or is still, if you don't love yourself, can you love others? Can you love life itself? And most of us would agree no. It has to start with self-love. But what does that mean? And do you just center on yourself for maybe your whole life until that is acquired? Just thinking about yourself, trying to bring in the self-love to yourself. Not really either. One time, His Holiness the Dalai Lama was asked the question of what does he know or want to speak on low self-esteem and high self-esteem, which means self-love or not. He had to have 4 or 5 different translators with 4 or 5 different languages try to tell him what that meant, low or high self-esteem. He had no idea in his Buddhist mind, because it wasn't part of their conversation or their philosophy or their scriptures. It didn't exist. You didn't dwell on, do I have low self-esteem? Do I have high self-esteem? That came in with psychology. That came in when we started dissecting the mind and figuring out what was good, what wasn't, the dichotomy, and on and on. It became like slicing up the mind. And if you go back to all the ancient scriptures, it's not included in there. It's really included in love of God. Love of the divine supreme being who made us all. And that alignment automatically brought love of self. So it wasn't love of self going to therapy or doing all of that to find out why your mother was this and why your father was that and why you have issues and why you feel good about yourself or stupid about yourself and on and on. It wasn't a realm that was dealt into until the West started developing this. And so I'd like to step out of our Western minds and go back to some very simple premise on love. And it truly is, at least in my experience over all these years, if I can love the miracle of the creative force of this universe that made me and made all of us and made the trees outdoors and brings the sun up every night and gets that moon to be full every 28 days, who can give us child, who can continue this whole drama called planet Earth. If I can align that kind of miraculous acknowledgement, miraculous bowing to that, then self-love comes automatically. Where in the West, because we have such a mental and really overdeveloped mind, we want to claim it, fix it, do all of these things to bring it about, when actually it's always been there. It's an issue that we've developed and overdeveloped, you might say. If you go to indigenous humans, which I'm sure many of you have, whether it's Peru, whether it's Tibet, whether it's places where they don't even maybe read or write, or very simply, they haven't developed up here so much. The love is so vast. We have gone to Tibet, and God willing we'll go again about 4 times now. And we've sat with many of the Tibetan nomads. We've climbed Mount Kailash. We've sat with many Buddhist lamas and rinpoches, and we've entertained them in our homes. We have an orphanage in the northeast corner of India. If anyone's more interested in that, please talk to me, because it's quite an incredible project. And the love that emanates from the children, the love that emanates from, maybe you have had occasion to know monks or lamas or rinpoches or just simple householders of the Tibetan Buddhist lineage. In almost all cases, if you had a word to describe about them, you'd say they're happy. Mostly because they have a daily practice. If it's mantra, if it's mudra, if it's the wheel, if it's prostrations, that connect them every single day to Creator. They don't call Creator God. They call it Buddha nature, or many other words that I'm not familiar with. But from that brings the self-love. From that brings love. There's a thing about window shopping, spiritual window shopping that one can do. But if you do it your whole life, I don't think the fulfillment will be there. It's like if you keep switching husbands or wives, you keep switching locations of living or jobs because it gets a little uncomfortable, or you don't like them anymore, or you fell out of love, or the job, and on and on and on. You never learn how to go through that portal, that small door into consciousness, if you don't stick with something long enough to see, why is it irritating me? Why don't I like it anymore? And then you start really having the experience that it's you. It has nothing to do with them. They've always been that way, or your boss, or your mate, or your home. It's the tiredness, which doesn't equate again to self-love. So it's a vast, vast time we have now living on this earth. I would say to come into that love, use all the tools that are available to you, but claim it's your birthright. Don't hope you can love yourself. Don't hope that you can experience the greatest gift is love. Just know it's available for all of us, and that it is your ticket home. It is your ticket for happiness. It is your ticket for good health, and it's your ticket for fulfillment this lifetime. We all were born to love. We all have it inside of us. So with the prayer that today's class will just open up like Hanuman opened up that heart chakra, just to be free. What does it mean? How does it feel? Well, one big thing for me is I can recognize the love now, that it doesn't have anything to do with judgment or with discrimination, with comparison, and with competition. All those elements, it takes me away from unconditional love, because it separates me from somebody or everyone. If I am competing or comparing myself to them, it naturally separates you then. If you have ever been in the presence of a holy person, an enlightened being, such as Amaji on this earth now. Of course, Yogi Bhajan, who left us some years ago, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and all those that came from the east to the west, including Yogananda, Muktananda, and in their presence, you feel self-love. You feel everything's perfect. You feel so good inside yourself, because that's what an enlightened person can give to all of us. If His Holiness the Dalai Lama would walk into the room now, we would get a certain feeling that maybe some of us have never felt. We don't even know what it is. It's like, but it feels so good that you want more of it. Because that's the ability of an enlightened being, to then spread the light to everyone else. But we all have that ability. Maybe not to the extent of those, but we have the ability to spread the light just by our presence. Just by our presence. Our presence speaks louder than our words. You can walk into a room, and we all have the ability to change the whole energy in the room. Say there was a lot of conflict or arguing amongst the people, disagreement. You could walk in and it could evaporate through the love. And it is possible, and we've all experienced that. I remember when I was a child, I always went to church every Sunday. We were Methodist Christians. And I will never forget, and I'm sure many of you have these remembrances in your life, of pure love. Perhaps the minister didn't even know that he was doing this to me and that it would last the rest of my life. He took my little hands and he put them like this, and he put both his hands, his big hands, around my little hands. And I never forgot that. And I never forgot how it felt. And that was pure love. Sometimes it happens with our grandmothers, with our parents, with a teacher, with a friend, with a neighbor, with a mate. But we all have a knowingness of that possibility of that pure love. But we also have the ability to give it and to receive it on maybe a one-to-one basis, through eyes, through smile, through your hands, through a hug. It doesn't have to be always a material gift. Sometimes the gift can be really bigger. And especially if you're feeling miserable, if you're feeling self-loathing, if you're criticizing yourself so much, you need to do that act, because it will equalize that false feeling that you have about yourself. Such as, if you're depressed, pick up the phone, call someone who's more depressed than you. And it will be healing for both of you. If you're feeling sick, I always say people that have cancer, go to people who have stage 4 cancer and serve them. If you're troubled in your relationship, rather than get into it and join somebody with lamenting and bitching, if I can say that word, about your mates, so you're just together going down, 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 find someone to lift them up. And it goes on and on like that. That's why for me to teach yoga is, in a sense, very, very selfish, because it helps heal me. I have to talk about love when maybe I didn't have such a great sadhana and don't maybe have the ultimate self-love that I'd like to have. So teaching is fantastic, because what you know, whether you studied or whether just innately you know, is a God-given gift. I couldn't be a lawyer if I had a gun to my head. I couldn't remember all that stuff. Some of you just get God's gifts of the skills, whether you're professional, whether you're taking care of children. It's a God's gift. It's not your gift. Yeah, but I worked so hard. But yeah, you did. But it was a gift from Creator to give you that ability to do it. So take those God gifts that aren't yours anyway, just like your body is leased. It's going to wear out someday, and the lease is gonna get turned in, right? Through under the ground or cremation or something. So we're leased. Our soul has leased this body, and our soul has, you might say, earned the ability to have certain skills. Use them. Use them in the name of the Creator that created you, and you will find happiness, guaranteed. Guaranteed. Okay? Agreed? You have to claim your happiness. People ask you how you're doing. Always say something like, I'm great. How are you doing? I'm so happy, even if you feel miserable. Because that's not who you are. That's your mind that's convinced you today you're miserable. Today you're tired. Today, blah, 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 you're feeling old. Today you're feeling fat. Today you're feeling stupid. Whatever it is, that's the mind playing tricks with you. But bottom line, I am great. I am happy. How are you? And they'll probably respond, I feel good too. But how are you? Oh, I'm really tired. The kids drove me crazy. My husband, I hate you go on and I feel kind of sick, my back, on and on and on. And they're going to tell you the same thing. And what are you going to walk away with? Just like, It's true. Use your words to uplift. Use your smile to uplift. Use your eyes to uplift. Use your arms to uplift. And then you'll know happiness. Okay, let us